Hello everybody and welcome back. I'm Katharina from the barn and this is the 5th barn session today and we're learning about the parts of the saddle and the parts of the bridle. So we're here with Josie. She's a little anxious to get back to her friends, so hopefully this will all go smoothly. So first off, before we get to the actual saddle part, I wanted to show you this strange looking thing here on Josie's back. This is called a saddle tree, and so it's what's inside your saddle and helps it keep its shape. So you'll notice underneath, I gotta make sure I show the right thing. You'll notice that underneath, these are what we call the bars of the saddle, and they sit along your horse's back right here. And it's what helps keep your saddle on your horse and distribute the weight across. And so this is the part that you fit to your horse to make sure the saddle fits them. Okay, so now we can go on to the full saddle and all the different parts to it. And so we're going to start off at the front. And so the first thing we have here is the saddle horn, which is probably the thing that differentiates the Western saddle from the English saddle the most. And so the horn commonly is used as a handle by people, but it's actually for cowboys working with cattle, so that way when they rope a cow, they can then tie their rope around it, so that way their horse is actually pulling the cow instead of just the cowboy trying to pull with all his strength. So you have the horn, and we go down here to these two swells, which are sometimes called saddle swells or the pommel. And a way to remember it is that's where you put your palms when you're riding. So you have the horn, the pommel, and we go down here to the seat jockey, which is just this little flap here. It's not the whole seat, just this part. And it's the same size as the racing saddles that jockeys use in horse races. So if you take this and kind of continue around to the other side, that's how big a jockey saddle is. So that's why it's called the seat jockey. Cantle, which is this little space right in here. So I'll show you on our little saddle tree over here. The cantle is this part right here, and it's where your horse's withers sit. So you want to make sure the cantle is high enough up that's not smushing your horse's withers. Smushing your horse's withers. Yeah, good girl. Look at that. Okay. So we have the horn, the pommels, the cantle, the seat jockey, and then probably the easiest part of the saddle to remember is the seat, which is right here, because that's where you sit. So really, if you only remember one thing from this whole time, it's that the seat is where you sit. And then you're good. You can just stop watching the video now. Okay, so after the seat, this part back here is called the cantle. And it's kind of the part that helps hold your butt in the saddle. And so a fun way to remember is that you can't handle the cantle. So your hands should never really be on the cantle unless for some reason you're riding your horse backwards, which would be fun, but not always effective. So then moving down, this part is called the fender, and it helps protect your leg from all of the buckles and things that are underneath that help keep the stirrup and the saddle on. And speaking of stirrups, this right here is a stirrup. It's where your foot goes, and it helps you balance while you're riding, as well as helps you balance when you're going at faster speeds. Okay, so then if we flip the stirrup up onto the saddle, we'll see a couple things here. So first off, this part right here is what we call the long latigo. And so this pulls out, and it's what we use to do the cinch up with. So I'll just fold this back in here. And then back here, this is called a short latigo or a billet, and it helps hold the back cinch on. This is the breast collar, which you would give your horse a big hug to put around. It's kind of like a chest strap. And then we have these wonderful little strings here, which are very originally named. They're called the saddle strings because they're strings on the saddle. And you can use them to tie different things onto your saddle. So if you're going backpacking out in the mountains, you could tie saddlebags on or your jackets on so that you can take things with you and you don't have to carry them all yourself. So just a quick little review on this side of the different parts of the saddle. We're going to do this Dora the Explorer style. So I'm going to pause for you to say them at home and then I will tell you what they are. So first off, we have the horn, and then we have the pommel, and then we go to the seat. Excellent job, everybody. And then we go to the cantle, because you can't handle the cantle. And then we go to the seat jockey, and then we have this is a surprise one that you can't really see from this angle. And then we have the gullet. And then the breast collar. Excellent job. You're all doing fantastic. And now we have the fender. And this is the spot where your foot goes, and it's called the stirrup. And then this one at the front is called the long latigo. Good job. And this one, there were two names for it. Either the short latigo or the billet. You're all doing awesome. And then we have the saddle strings. Excellent. So that's everything on this side of the saddle. And I'm going to turn Josie around so we can look at the other side of the saddle. Okay, so then this is now the right side of the saddle. Now lots of the things are the same, but we have a couple new ones. So I'm going to flip the stirrup up here. And here you'll see this cinch. So this is the front cinch. That's kind of like the big belt that helps hold the saddle on the horse. And then over here is the back cinch, which helps keep the saddle from tipping up while you're going downhill or while you're going faster. Then we've got saddle strings on this side as well. And then the last thing that we have on this side, I don't know if you can see them, but they're these fun little flower designs. Sometimes they're in leather, sometimes they're in metal, and they're really pretty, and they're called conchos. So it sounds kind of exotic. They look kind of like exotic flowers. That's how you can help remember them. And they just help keep the saddle strings on, and they also are usually around to where the different screws and nails are that help keep the saddle together. So that's all the parts of the saddle. Okay, and now for the parts of the bridle, I actually have two super fun friends here with me today. I have Autumn, and then I also have Harvey, our horse head. And so Harvey is something that we use, which is super helpful in showing just sort of how the bridle stays on the horse and what parts it actually pulls on. So as you can see, horses have teeth at the front of their mouth and then at the back, but there's this little gap right here, which is super cool because it's like God designed them to actually be able to be ridden and to be partners for us. So the bit sits right here. You have to imagine that their tongue would be here, so the bit sits on top of the tongue, and then it never actually hits any of the other teeth or gets caught on any of them, so it's not like your horse is holding this bar in their mouth, it's just kind of sitting there. And then this part up here, you have to imagine that Harvey also has ears, which would come out right here. And so this part right here, kind of if your horse had eyebrows, this is called the brow band, so it goes on their forehead or on their eyebrow. And then this here is their cheek piece because it goes along where their cheek is. This is the bit, as I mentioned before. Down here is the chin strap because it goes underneath where your horse's chin is. And this is what helps keep the bit from sliding all the way through your horse's mouth. So that way when you pull or turn, you're not gonna just suddenly like have the bit come all the way through and it'd be super uncomfortable for your horse. And then we have the throat latch here, which you would do up underneath your horse's throat. And this helps keep the whole bridle on And then all together, if there's a bit attached, this is all called a bridle. But if there's no bit attached and it's just the leather parts, it's just called a head stall. And that's the parts of the bridle and the parts of the horse. Thank you to my friends for helping. Cheers.